But I like to describe our Community Economic Development Center as kind of the bridge between our centers here at Mission West. They oversee that program. They work a lot with other community organizations. They attend a lot of like, county commissioner meetings and chamber meetings and things like that. And the whole point is to kind of have someone out in the community that's one able to voice what Mission West is able to offer, but also to start to understand kind of what those needs are and get a better finger on the pulse of the communities that we're here to serve. And they do a wide range of services as well. One of the big things they're working on right now is the Spring Creek Kitchen. But the Spring Creek Kitchen is going to be a shared use kitchen and a pop-up ghost kitchen sort of deal in the east wing of the building here. And it'll be for food businesses that are kind of in that incubation period. They're testing products or they're testing whether they want to go into a brick and mortar building, whatever it may be. But that'll be a place for them to utilize that and kind of test markets and offer their products in a different venue. So that's a pretty exciting project that should be coming down the pike here in the next few years. And then the last center is the Business Development Center, which I am a part of. This center houses an in-house loan department, which offers, I think we have 10 or 11 different loan funds that are all kind of designed for different purposes. But we're able to provide startup loans and small business loans for really any need that you might think of. The point not being for us to be here to compete with banks, but more to provide gap financing, startup funds, and come in situations where maybe a traditional lender might not be able to provide that loan initially, where we can kind of step in and make things a little more favorable. On top of that, we provide technical assistance and a wide variety of services. We have a pretty robust technical assistance network. They can help you with business planning, financial projections, social media management, website management, HR topics, really you name it. We probably have someone that can help you out a little bit. And then we are able to put on these workshops as well, which are all funded through USDA grants. Very thankful for those. I mean, that's why we're able to continue to offer these free education opportunities to small business owners in the area. And we would love to hear from you. We have a survey that'll go out after every session. And we love to hear your feedback on topics you'd love to learn more about, or just the whole workshop process in general, anything to help dial that in and provide a service that's really beneficial to you as business owners. That's what we would love to hear about. So with all of that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our presenter today. Kyle Wright is back again for our third session. If you weren't able to attend those first two, just reach out and we will gladly get you those recordings. But I'm going to turn it over to Kyle and let's continue learning about AI.
Right on. Thank you so much, Wes. Yeah, it's been a fun workshop series so far, and I'm excited to jump into part 3. For those that have been with us the whole way, you'll remember 2 weeks back when we started, we were talking about the why of ChatGPT AI, kind of a little bit of more of a get to know you, what are its strengths, weaknesses, what you can use it for, and how to think about it. And then in workshop 2, we talked a little bit more about writing great prompts and then really utilizing how you approach a question or a prompt with ChatGPT to maximize its output, and some different strategies on that. And so then today, I want to take it a step further. And so we're going to be diving into AI customization, not just using AI, but actually training AI to work better for you. And so we're going to be focusing on how ChatGPT's memory and prompt training can improve AI's responses. Even if you're on the free plan, there are ways to guide AI so that it gives you smarter, more consistent results. And as I had mentioned earlier, this will be a hands-on session. Be ready to test, tweak, and refine as we go. And obviously, if you prefer to just listen along and take some notes, that's great too. But one of the things that I'm going to be doing today is walking us through, actually, we're going to be trying to customize your AI and provide it with instructions and provide it with materials. So if you have a ChatGPT or a Gemini or any kind of cloud, whatever it is, account, most of these are going to be mostly beneficial for you. You can still, we're going to talk about some of the ways that you can do this, like I said, just by booting up the free version with no account. However, even just creating a free account, there was somebody that popped in last time and talked about her experience with a ChatGPT and how she named him George and kind of got to personalize him a little bit more, and then he was gone on the next time. And so we're going to be looking to solve for that by consistently creating some custom set of instructions so that your GPT starts to understand what your expectations are. So just out of curiosity, before we start to jump in and I go through some examples, I'm going to be touching on Gemini and ChatGPT pretty much exclusively today, as they have the largest capacity for memory and training. Is there anyone else that's using anyone other than those two? Does it look like it? All right. So I'm going to mostly assume then that the majority of the group is using ChatGPT, with probably a couple Google Gemini holdouts out there. But like I said, we'll talk about the Gemini, the Google part of things a little bit, but we mostly are going to be heavily in ChatGPT and using their training. But once again, all these principles can be applied across the board. So let's go ahead and pop into this a little bit here. AI is already powerful, but when you train it to follow your style, your workflows, and your preferences, it becomes an even more valuable tool. Instead of giving generic answers, a properly trained AI can respond in a way that aligns with your business, your writing style, and even your industry-specific needs. And so that's what we're working on today, not just using it, but making AI work for you, like I said. It's going to work. AI is going to work better when it's tailored to your needs. It can save you time with personalized workflows, things that you do all the time, and it's going to improve your accuracy and consistency over time. So by refining AI's memory and setting clear rules, you're going to ensure responses that align, like I said, with your brand voice, and then they're going to provide reliable information every time, taking the guesswork out of it. So with custom GPTs, now that we know AI can be customized, let's compare a couple of different ways to do it. We're going to be looking at custom GPTs versus memory plus strong prompts. And we're going to talk about the differences between those here in a little bit. But custom GPTs are going to be ideal for fully personalized AI assistants that follow preset rules and even pull from uploaded documents. But they do require a ChatGPT Plus subscription. Now, ironically, if you're using Gemini, they do have this option on the free tier account, but Gemini lacks the ability to actively manage its memory. And so, whereas in ChatGPT, we're going to learn how we can actually go in and clear settings out, adjust custom rules, set of preferences. And whereas Gemini's more set up to organically learn as you tell it to remember things and retain information that way, but you can't actually go into its memory physical history and start deleting things like you can in ChatGPT. So on the other hand, memory and strong prompts can give you a similar benefit without needing a paid account. Once again, we're not going to really be doing anything today that you have to pay for the advanced versions for, but they do require a little bit more manual training, and AI is going to remember context within the session, but the free users will need to reprompt AI in every new chat. So one of the benefits you get in having the account, signing up for it, whether it's the free version or not, is that, like I said, those responses and the things that you teach it in its memory continue to stay active over time rather than getting reset every time you bring up a new GPT, like our participant last time who lost George. So, custom ChatGPT versus AI memory and good prompting. So this is kind of a table that we were talking about before. So the feature would be like customization depth. Custom GPTs have full control over AI behavior, tone, and knowledge versus when you do a combination of memory plus prompting strong, like we covered in the last workshop. AI remembers past interaction, but doesn't necessarily change its core personality. Same thing, it's with preset instructions, with custom GPTs, and permanent instructions apply every time. But with the memory and strong prompts, you must remind AI every time that you're opening up a new chat on what you want it to do and how you want it to act. Also with custom GPTs, you can get into file uploads, API access, and then integrated into its style over time to start recognizing your brand and voice, like we said we talked about. Versus the one-time use only. So as you continue to, and then as far as the cost, the ChatGPT Plus is a $20 a month feature, and I believe Gemini is roughly the same. But memory and strong prompt is free across the board. And as long as you have an account, it'll start to remember things. So the point I really want to drive over here is that it's all about whether or not you need to remind your GPT to constantly do things, or whether it retains all of the information and the customization set of instructions that you've provided it every time. So AI can remember past interactions using managed memory, as we've been talking about. This means it can recall preferences, ongoing projects, and specific instructions across different conversations. Both ChatGPT and Gemini offer memory features, like I said, so regardless of which platform you're using, you can train AI to retain information and respond in a more personalized way. However, once again, you must have an account to enable these features. Even free users can access memory settings, but customization options vary depending on the model. So let's go ahead and get some hands-on and kind of see how this works in action. So first off, what we're going to do I'm going to go ahead and walk us through some of the first steps and kind of show you what it looks like on my screen. I'll share it along. These are the steps I've got on the presentation here, but I'm going to switch over to sharing my screen. So on the right over here, we've got Gemini, and we'll run through this quick because, like I said, we'll spend most of the time on ChatGPT. So in Gemini, once you've logged in and created your account, you'll have your new chats. You can come in and give it your responses. Hey, I want to, whatever you want to do. Now, there's this little button down here tab down here called Gem Manager. This is where you're going to create your customized version. Now, the cool thing about custom GPTs, or gems in Google's case here, is that people have come in and actually made a whole bunch already. These are pre-created, customized robot GPTs, if you will. This one's specifically focused, been given source material and given a set of series of instructions to tell it to act as a coder. If you guys will recall, in our last session, we talked about one of the prompts we could do, act as a professional in blank, or a coach, or whatever it is. These are going to be examples of GPTs that have been made with those custom sets of instructions. Unlock your career guide. So this GPT guide is all going to be focused on career advice. We'll have other ones do better at brainstorming, one's a better writer, one's better at coming up with sales pitches, etc. And you can create one yourself. We can call it Mission West. And its instructions, this is example, you're a horticulturist with a background in natural lawns and in a class. This is where we would give it that prompt that we've done before, only it's not a prompt so much in that we're starting open our sentence with it. We're giving it a higher level of instruction, all the way down at its core level. Its core purpose, if you will, is to be this. And so you are a small business professional in Montana. And obviously you would give it a lot more details, so on and so forth. And then you can save it. And once it's saved, you can access it over here and then use it every time. So every time you have a question about this space, or so on and so forth, you can come back to this specific gem or custom GPT, and it has those preloaded instructions. And so it's going to remember your conversations, and you can keep building on that every time you come back to continue to work on things. So that's an example of what custom GPTs are and how they work. Very similar to how it works on over in ChatGPT. Now, as I mentioned before, the difference in ChatGPT is that you cannot necessarily create your own custom GPT on the free plan. However, you do still have access to GPTs that have been submitted by a number of different people. Think of this as the GPT App Store. And so Expedia has got one all about trip planning. There's one about video AI, website generator. This one's going to be a little bit more sales pitchy. I played around with that the other day. Logo creators, image generators. So obviously for some of these to work, like Dolly, you do need to be a paid user because so Dolly is the image creation. And so there's certain features that some of these custom GPTs that you would need to pay for to gain access to the higher reasoning models and so on and so forth. But for all intents and purposes, there really are so many in here, writing, productivity, research and analysis, education, lifestyle, programming. This one's completely trained on Python. This one's completely trained on Java, HTML, etc. So you can still use these features in your account. But one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we do here is to go in to your ChatGPT account and make sure that you have some of these settings turned on first, because it can be a little bit of a pain in the butt. So once you've logged into ChatGPT, here's your main screen that you're going to be familiar with seeing. It's probably going to have this little bit down here that says upgrade plan that you can offer. That's how you can go from free to plus to pro. As I mentioned, there's probably not too many of us that need this pro level. Plus works just fine if you wanted to go for those features. But that's how you can upgrade it. From there, even with the free version right here, because this is a free version that I've got loaded up, and you can click on this little circle that's going to be your profile. There's a button that says Explore GPTs. That's where we were. But then there's this other button right here. It says Customize ChatGPT. So this is going to be your bio, your introduction to ChatGPT. This is what it needs to know about you. So what should ChatGPT tell you? This is where you would put in your name or your alias, or heck, call me Superman, whatever you want it to call you. You want it to know what you do. You don't have to put that information in it. It just makes it a little bit more relevant. Depending on if I want it to be using more for work, I might tell it my profession and, give it a little bit more information. And then that's going to prompt it to respond in a specific way. And that's going to give you an option to say, what traits should ChatGPT have? You can have it use a formal professional tone, casual and chatty, be opinionated, be sassy, all sorts of different things. This is kind of the flair and the kind of the vibe that you want. My ChatGPT will call me dude from time to time. It helps me feel just a little bit less formal and a little bit more relaxed, and it's easier to share ideas with it. But they've got a couple ideas. It's chatty, witty, straight shooting, encouraging, have it sound like Gen Z, forward thinking, traditional, poetic, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of options that you can give here, and they come up with little ideas for you if you need help deciding, or you can put nothing if you want. And then anything else ChatGPT should know about you. This might be a good place to make your shellfish allergy, so that when you're asking for meal ideas, it's not pitching, shrimp stew or something, so on and so forth. And then you can also turn on and off some of the different capabilities. These are the tools that can be used with ChatGPT-4. It's got web search, creating images, code interpreter. Canvas is a little workspace that'll pop up, kind of give you a space for you and GPT to kind of collaborate, kind of like a whiteboard. And then advanced voice is more of a natural conversations in voice mode. If anybody's tried activating voice mode, you can turn that on and you can speak to it rather than typing to it, and it answers all the same way and records the transcripts. So that is how you can customize your ChatGPT, and I would urge everyone to take some time to customize that portion of it. It's just good information for your ChatGPT to know, but sometimes it's not completely necessary in that section. Now, when we start talking about memory, and let me back up a little bit. So both ChatGPT and Gemini offer memory features, but they may not be enabled in your account. So the first thing that you're also going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that you pop up here into your profile and you're clicking on settings, and it's going to pop up this settings. It's got your general and settings can be their language, theme, etc. Then under personalization, this is going to be the tab that we're going to want to focus on. Custom instructions, this is what we said before, and we have them on, and then memory is going to be a setting that we're going to want to make sure that we have on. By default, it's actually toggled off, and we're going to want to go ahead and toggle it on so that AI actually has a memory, and it has a brain, and it retains all these pieces of information. From there, you can go down here into manage memories. And this is going to be as you starting to chat with it and it learns your preferences and so on and so forth. It's all going to start to show up here. And if you're anything like me, you'll actually run out of time at some point or run out of space and you're going to have to start deleting things. And there's a trick for that that I'll show actually a little bit later that I just discovered this week about having AI or ChatGPT manage its own memory. And we'll jump back into that when we kind of show you some more examples of mine. So this is a good example to we talk about feeding ChatGPT information. This is where the memory is going to kick in on the style, the tone, the brand, things like that. So if I have my website, if I go over to my website at celticwinter.com and I pull off some of my blog articles that I've written, or we go to Mountain West and we look at some of the content that they've created or their blog posts or some of the social media posts that they've shared in the past. We can take screenshots of those, we can download all of that, and we can give it or feed it to ChatGPT. We can paste it right here in the chat section, but then there's also this little plus button. This is upload file from computer. So this is where we can, just like you would uploading any other kind of program or file to Google Drive or whatever like that, you could manually upload pieces of information, and they could be screenshots even. They could be images of pretty much anything. It could be screenshots of the emails, etc. And once you're feeding, you paste it on in here with the little thing, and then you let it know, hey, I've just attached this email. This is an example of my company's tone, brand. This is how we communicate. This is what we write about, so that it gains more examples that then it can use. So then in the future, when you're having it write a blog post or content on your website, it understands the style and writing that you have already chosen for your brand and for your business. So instead of sounding like a bank when you're a farm or vice versa, or even if it's, rural or local, or, we're big business or we're new wave or brand new ideas or forward thinking or any of those kind of styles or things that make your business unique, the more examples of information that you can give to the AI, to ChatGPT here, it's going to have a much better idea of what it's expected to sound like so that it sounds like you. So that's what we talk about when we talk about the practice feeding structured prompts to reinforce memory is the secondary part. Even at that long-term memory, AI can still be trained within a single session using structured prompts like, for this conversation, act as role and follow these guidelines. The more often that you give it those kind of responses, or you're giving it examples from your business, the more it's going to consistently start to sound like you, and it's going to start to develop and know you over time. So I'm actually going to pop on over to my GPT here, and I'll give you some examples of what a fully managed memory actually looks like. All right, so here's my ChatGPT, and let's pop and open a new chat. Good morning, GPT. We are presenting to Mission West Workshop. Say hello, and it's going to give me a little plug. Awesome. So I'm going to give an example now of what it looks like when you actually give it a memory. Okay, I want you to remember that we have, how many participants do we have right now? About 12 participants in today's workshop. So there's a bunch of different ways that ChatGPT is going to have memory, it's going to know to manage its memory. But as this, most of the time you'll see this little bit pop up here, memory updated. You can force it to remember things by telling it to remember, or instructions like, I always want you to, or it's important to me that. Things that of those nature, and there's probably a list of actual keywords that trigger it to update its memory, but I'm not sure what they are. We could probably ask it. But what I want to be able to show you is how this actually works. So it says, got it, you've got 12 participants in your workshop. Let me know if you need any adjustments or last minute additions. So we can click right here and we can see that its memory has been updated. Let's see what it chose to remember. Kyle Mission West Workshop on March 13th has 12 participants. So I'm going to go to manage memories, and I'm going to be able to see everything that it can remember about me, what I've told it to remember, etc., so on and so forth. So at some point, if I wanted to completely start over, I could clear ChatGPT's memory. Or if I run out of memory, I can delete any single one of these at a time. But some of the recent ones is, for example, it remembers our conversation I had with it about the concept of organic computing. Or when I'm going through with some of the workshops, I want my workshop slide number 3 to strike a balance between concise visuals and key information and not too much text, but enough to support my explanations. So on and so forth. What I'll do once I'm done, once we've completed this, is that it's no longer going to need information about the workshops that we've done so far. So there's a trick that I actually learned that I wanted to be able to show you guys is you can prompt ChatGPT to manage its own memory. This is a hack that I found out this last week, and I'm pretty excited about it because rather than going through and manually consolidating and clearing things out and retraining it in real time, I asked ChatGPT to go through or I told it its memory was full and I needed to figure out a way to consolidate. And it actually offered up that it could look for duplicate entries, things of that nature, and consolidate these memories all down into a couple of slots because its memory works, that is, a number of slots, not how much information is in each one of those slots. So within about 15 seconds, it took all of the information, didn't lose anything, consolidated it up into different sections, a whole managed memory for everything surrounding what I've done with Mountain West or Mission West, everything around the workshops, everything surrounding the podcast that I'm working on, etc. All these different chunk sections that kind of give it its custom set of instructions, the things that it knows about me. And from there, it freed up about 60% of my available memory so that it continued to learn new things. And that's a good example of how you can go through and not only use ChatGPT to manage its own memory, but also go in and manage it from your end as well. One other little cool trick that I've discovered the other day is I asked ChatGPT, I formed a prompt that essentially asked it to examine some of the things that I do most often, my styles, the questions that I ask most often, the requests I make of it. And what it was able to do was go back through our chat history and get a good idea of all these most common inquiries that I would make to it, or the most common instructions that I would ask it to do. And then I had it take a lot of those and come up with a prompt that would commit those most often or highest tendencies into its own memory. So for all intents and purposes, what I had ChatGPT go through, look for the things that I did most often, give me a write-up so that I could approve those, and then it basically committed all those tendencies to memory so that I don't need to ask for them every single time. These are the high-level instructions on what I prefer, even if I didn't realize that that's what I was doing most often. So that was a pretty cool prompt on how you can use ChatGPT to actually understand more about what it's controlling for you, but then also how you can get into the guts of it to understand what it currently knows about you and what its expectations are and how you can tweak, and adjust those. So I'm going to pop back on over to our slide here. And now would probably be a good time, because I know we just went through a whole bunch of little information on some of the customizations and the back end things. And I'm happy to run through any of those instructions again if we need a little bit more. So as we mentioned, this is a little more hands-on. So I'm going to mute for a second and see if anybody has any questions they'd like to pop up and ask.
Hey, Kyle. Oh, Valerie, why don't you go?
I was a little late. I'm so sorry. And so I was asking what do you mean by a tendency, like the way you write or the specific thing about the way you think? Or what does that mean when you say tendency?
Great question, Valerie. In fact, when I say it, I pretty much mean all of the above. Anything that I do frequently, so a tendency. If I have a tendency to ask a lot of questions, I also have a tendency to so for example, if ChatGPT in the beginning, you'll notice hey, would you like any other help with that? Or kind of give some generic response. So a tendency that I would have very often is to I don't like it when you say this because I'm always going to ask a follow-up question. Or I may have a tendency to ask follow-up questions. Or I have a tendency to like things summarized in a concise, clean way at the end of a conversation. I do this in personal conversations a lot too. I always like to sum up our conversation at the end of a group. So whether it's something that I'm thinking or doing or expecting, anything that I'm doing in a repeated fashion is what I mean by tendency there for myself.
So what's the point of having Chat GPT tell you what is it like for a learning experience? Are you thinking that maybe you have a habit that you want to break, or what's
Yeah,
the
I mean, great question. The why behind it could be for a couple of things. I personally am always looking to understand more about why I do what I do. My my own personal philosophy on how I view myself is always trying to I know how I experience the world as me, but I'm not always as observant in the things that I do most often. So, people tell me, "Oh yeah, you're always doing blank or always," and then while that doesn't bother me, I'm just not super aware of it. So if I'm asking it to pick up on habits that I've missed, maybe I want to break them, maybe it's kind of a bad thing like that. That's a great way that you could utilize it. For example, I was looking back on the videos in the recording, I would notice maybe I say frequently. And so that would be a tendency. I would maybe ask ChatGPT to analyze a script or a conversation to look for those things. But mostly when I say for this is I like to find out what I'm doing most often because I like to automate systems so that I don't have to manually do it every time. If 15 times a day I do the same thing, but I can get the robot to do it for me, and save me 20 minutes of my day, then that's an optimization that I'm more than happy to take advantage of.
and that doesn't make you nervous about having so much of your personality out there for a robot or an iBot or whatever they are to know
So,
about you?
I mean, that's a great question. And for myself, when it comes to internet safety, security, personalization out there, if I do, I'm always cautious about and I'm always thinking about what are the effects as we continue along with this and as we give so much of our personal information and thought on over to these machines. But I'm not sure, and this is just my own take on it. I don't see too much of a difference between asking. So Facebook's algorithm does more than that on a day-to-day basis anyway. Social media and different things, it's collecting our data all the time, whether we our search habits or how we browse or how we interact with people or even where we go. And it makes up all these different stories about who we are and what it is that we do. So if machine learning can do all that, whether or not I'm even telling it, then I'm personally not too concerned about volunteering up information. Maybe I'm going to hold back a little bit on everything that I feel and hold back something in reserve. But data is getting to the point where everything's being collected about us so much that one more drop in the bucket, if I'm that concerned about it, then I need to make some radical changes. But between what data and analytics can tell corporations that are collecting data about us, I mean, even if you go to the grocery store and you have one of the frequent shopper cards, that, they're giving you 20% off milk or 20 cents off milk every Tuesday or whatever, so that they can gain data on your shopping habits and your behaviors so that they can use that in their business to inform decisions. So data in the world around us is prevalent and it's happening all the time. So to answer your question in the long-winded way, I don't worry about it so much because that's kind of the way everything is going, but I am always cautious and on guard. And balancing those two, I think, is, for me, the blend that's kept me safe on the internet and in technology so far.
Thank you. That makes total sense.
Good. Well, thank you. That was a great question. And I think we had another one from Dave.
Yeah, hey Kyle.
How are you?
Great, how are you?
Great. Thank you.
So with the InChat GPT, when you do the settings for the memory and everything else,
Mm-hmm.
is that just when you're using the Chat GPT, or does that go over to the pre-programmed ones? Like I have a tax assistant and PowerPoint webinar assistant. Does it go into those two, or just the normal Chat GPT?
That's a great question. From my understanding of it, and I can double check this here, as we go along. But from my understanding, the custom GPTs that are actually made are kind of their own little bubble. While they have access to the information that you may have provided it, it's a set of higher instructions. It's kind of like a first come, first serve on the instruction basis, a highest and best rule of law almost. So as the instructions are coming down, is the highest and most important one. Our first is going, this is your world, this is how you operate, and these are your set of instructions because you are this custom GPT. And so while it may be influenced by and know things in your memory, it's more there as in somebody that knows you and it can gain access to it rather than the set of instructions to always act this way every time. When you create a custom GPT, think about the way in which you write a prompt and I want you to act as this. Now imagine if every single time you wrote a prompt and it was outside of a custom GPT, but you pasted the same series of instructions every time. You are this. This is what you do. Don't do anything else. And you were always reminded. It was like a legal text or disclaimer that came every prompt that you sent on over. That's going to be kind of the way that your custom GPTs are going to be operating under, is that highest set of instructions. But from my understanding, it should also, like, for example, if I fed it, 5 emails or 5 financial statements into its memory, and it has access to those, I do believe the custom GPT should be able to speak across that to pull that information, but its style and its persona is going to be the highest and best rule of what you've explained or instructed it to be within its custom, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. And that's a great question, too. I've got that written down over here. I'm going to do a little bit more double checking to find out about that relationship between GPT and then the memory on that, just so I'm making sure I'm giving the correct information. And I can send you some information on that afterwards once I find out if you're curious at all.
Yeah, sounds good. Appreciate it.
Of course. Well, great questions. Any other questions that we have? All right. Well, then let's go ahead and pop back over here. So I want to talk a little bit more about making AI actually learn your business. So hang on, let me just over here. Okay, so the more relevant information that you feed it, the better that it performed. AI can be trained, as we talked about, to understand your company by feeding it relevant details and allowing it to generate more accurate and brand-aligned responses. So we talked about feeding it emails, different examples of content. This is right here. We got some information on this, providing FAQs, SOPs, and business documentations. By providing AI with your company's frequently asked questions, key documents, etc., it can help it generate more informed business-specific responses. And then once AI has the information, always, it's a good idea to be testing it. Test how well it understands by asking business-related questions. If the response is off, tweak the input to improve accuracy. There are a lot of companies doing this these days. You can see about how you can train or build a chatbot for your business. There's lots of companies that are promoting them. I offer it as one of my services as well. And when you're training a chatbot, that's what you do. Is one of the first things is you train it on all of your data. These are my FAQs, my frequently asked questions. Most often when people call me and ask me about this and this and that, or my hours of operation, or etc. A chatbot could be as simple as those basic things. Think about everything that you can get off calling a phone tree for a business and getting hours of information, directions, etc. Well, a basic chatbot could just refine those and then offer to get somebody in touch with somebody if they have a question beyond any one of those things. But by doing so, it filters out a lot of the people that just have those same kind of questions. So, and then adjusting instructions for better responses. If AI responses don't fully align with your business needs, you can refine its instructions by being more specific about tone, industry terms, key examples, correct it, train it, etc. One of the rules that I myself have been having good success, and in some of the Reddit threads and GPT prompt, we've kind of been having some of these conversations about, I liken it to, if anybody's familiar with like The Secret or the Law of Attraction, there's a theory in there that talks about how the universe doesn't hear no, it just hears the thing. And so you end up being attracted by that. So what I mean by that is when I'm providing GPT instructions, I don't tell it a lot of things to not do. because that could be confusing for it. Maybe it's not always going to hear the no. I don't want you to do this. Well, realistically, when I think about it from that approach, if I want it to do one thing, well, then 99.999% of everything else in possible existence is a no. And I don't have time to train it on 99% of existence that I don't want it to do. So I take the approach is if I can tell it exactly what I do want it to do, hey, this is what I want it to be. And if I see something that pops up, instead of I don't want you to respond this way, I would say, instead of responding this way, replace it with, here's an example. Always kind of a forward-thinking example, positive-based approach on it so that it, don't do this means don't do it this way, but do anything else any way you want it. And instead, once again, I have a context and I have a very specific way that I want it to do a thing and a very specific expectation that I want it to understand. And so if I can communicate that way, it's going to be much more effective. And so some different ways that you can train AI to match your business voice, as it's only as good as the instructions that you give it. If you want it to sound like your business, you need to train it to match your tone, style, and brand voice. So you can use role-based prompting. Instead of just asking AI to write an email, try act as a customer support rep for your business. Use a friendly, professional tone while keeping responsibility. These are all going to be very familiar from the last workshop where we did a lot more of this role-based prompting. Provide style examples, copy, paste an email, blog post, or response that your business has written and say, write in this exact style. In this time too, when I pop it up, I like to have ChatGPT. I have a prompt that I go, I would like you to analyze this blog post and please tell me what you think my business style and tone is. And then I will have it flesh it out. And I go, okay, you got it quite close, but I actually was hoping for a little bit more warmth or a little bit more friendly or whatever. And then you can tweak it on that backside. And then using what you have and then enhancing it a little bit, it can kind of act as a double-edged sword there. Using system messages. So this is something like before starting a conversation, begin with, for this chat, respond as if you were the brand voice of your business. Use a warm, engaging tone with short, actionable sentences. And then once again, test and refine. If the AI's response is too formal, too casual, or not quite right, you can always adjust your instructions and try again. Over time, it will get closer to your brand's unique voice. And so this is where I encourage everybody to go input different prompts and see how AI adjusts tone. Take one email and just practice giving it, no, I want it more friendly, or I want it to sound like a James Bond villain, or whatever you want. Just have fun exploring around and see how even small and large prompts in tone and style can radically adjust the way that a whole thing feels. So that's pretty much it for today. So before we wrap up and last little bit here, I'd love to hear any other questions we have or insights or thoughts around some of these customizations on your brand for your business, anything specific we want to get to, or if we needed a few more instructions or examples. Got a few more minutes in here. We can kind of have a hands-on approach if that would help anybody.
So from what you've been saying, if I wanted to put a little ad on Facebook, I could actually put it into GPT and then just copy and paste it, if I like what it says.
Yeah, you absolutely could. So when you say put it in Facebook, so tell me what that would sound like for you, Valerie. What steps would you take then?
I would decide what part of my business I want to promote that day.
Okay.
Go into Chat GPT and say,
Mhm.
I want you to promote this, whatever it is, of my business. I want you to sound engaging, but I want you to entice them to click the action now button, kind of an idea.
That is a great one, like we talked about with the call to action. It's going to spit something out, and maybe it's good. Let's do an example on it. I'm going to pop over here, and I'm going to share this screen. Let's just do a quick example. Valerie, tell me about your business just a little bit. What is it?
Construction, and right now is starting to be the time for gutters.
I would like you to write me a Facebook post for a company called, what is the name of your business?
Which gutters?
Gutters.
ROOTS.
Roots gutters, right on. It's gutter season, and we want to promote our business and entice buyers to take action by booking let's just say like a free consultation.
Yeah.
Today. We want it to sound warm and engaging, you said?
Yep. And enticing.
All right, let's see what it comes up with. Gutter season is here. Protect your home with roots and gutters. Spring showers are coming, or your brings it a clog site. Okay, great. Okay. So let's say that we want to tweak it out a little bit. So this probably looks pretty good, but does this feel like something that you guys would write?
Yeah, maybe not quite so polished, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so this looks good. However, I would like it to match the tone of this business by sounding slightly less polished. And so now, here we go. Instead of, and if you're going to say your home can take the hit, leaks, clogs, we can install things. So once again, it's changed it slightly here. Now we could go through and give it a different set of instructions by going, it's not quite hitting the spot. Here's our last 3 posts. I've added in screenshots to it. I want you to try and match this a little bit more or whatever. But as you can see that it's going to make these small adjustments and it's going to sound, it can sound completely different or similar just depending on how you kind of tweak it up a little bit. So from here, yeah, you could realistically go through and take this if you wanted. You could take this and change a few words or get an example or write it do a few edits yourself, whatever you wanted to do. But this, for all intents and purposes, could be a ready to go post that you've customized based on, your style. And then for more examples, again, that you give it of your business, the better it starts to sound. Every time I take on a new client, I take a lot of I have ChatGPT go through and do a deep dive of their web presence, see what they have already. And so I'm already feeding it as much information for my clients on its own little section so that, it kind of gets an idea for what it sounds like. So if I'm helping them write custom material, at least our first draft doesn't sound like something the opposite of the way that y'all would have written it.
Okay. And I like bits and pieces of both of them. So I would probably take bits and pieces of both of them and then make that my.
Absolutely. And you could even say, I like the following of both pieces. And then just, paste out this one. Maybe we liked this part and we like this last part here. And so it's going to kind of take a combination. And here's your revised post containing the best of both worlds, for example. So just like you said, little bits, pieces, then maybe this isn't quite a thing and you'll take what you like from here and go from there.
Thank you.
Absolutely, Valerie. Thank you for jumping in. Great question. All right. Yes, Bridget. Or Bridget?
Yes.
Right
You
on.
might have kind of alluded to it right before the last question series, but if we have constituents who might have a farm, they might have a pick operation, value added, they might have different aspects of their business. And you said maybe put in a different email. So if they wanted to present themselves differently in each aspect of their business, should they operate a separate GPT with a separate email each time?
A great question. No, I would say this is where, learning after every time. So a custom set of instructions for them is I might go in and say, hey, I'm operating under 3 different emails right now for various clients. Explain the situation. So at different times, I'm going to be asking you to act as company A, company B, and company C. All 3 of those businesses have their own unique thing. And then, company A is this, company B is this, company C. So your prompt is, hey, gonna write an email for company C. And company C is the one that sounds like they're your best friend next door versus, I want you to write a company for A. Oh, the grumpy neighbor up the street is writing this email. And so you can do all those personalizations. And that's the beautiful part of memory is it's going, I know who these people are. I understand what it is. And then you can then use that to access different pieces. As you can imagine, I deal with different clients and different situations and responding to different people and wearing different hats all the time. And so, yeah, and I just use the one GPT as, hey, we're so-and-so. I have a couple of these different projects so my overall, this is a personal project grouping that I have for some custom GPTs. And set of instructions. This is my on track for the day. I've got a set of instructions. I pop in, I tell it good morning. It gives me a list of my responsibilities for the day, kind of acts as a personal assistant that I've been working on. This is the one that calls me dude and bro, and we have a relationship. Hey man, I'm here to be your motivational guy. Make sure you get your leg day in at the gym today, you know, get that sweat. I can't wait on keeping track of your progress, etc. My project manager that deals with Mission West workshops does not speak to me that way. He has an entirely different personality. So depending on where I'm engaging and how I'm interacting with my GPT, with some of the keywords and the way that I've set different aspects of myself. Hey, when I'm at home doing a deep dive about, you know, I listen to this great podcast with Armchair Experts about the art of conversation and things like that. And if I have this thought and I want to do a deep dive and I'm just thinking about why concepts, it's going to go your drunk friend at 3 a.m. and talk about philosophy with you and kind of act as that versus all that. So you really can start to customize that. And that may be a good use case for those custom GPTs that we talked about. Hey, this custom GPT is, you know, blank business. You operate as this. This is who you are in the world. And so by going into the separate GPTs, you could keep it separate if it's a little easier to manage.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different ways to achieve a lot of these different things. It all comes down to what system makes most sense to you and what medium you feel comfortable working on.
Oftentimes they do wear a lot of hats that are really different, and they don't have a lot of cash to have multiple accounts.
Sure. Exactly. Yeah, I don't, for me, there's really no reason, if you can structure your GPT into the custom different section, like I said, the projects that I have over here is a paid feature, custom GPTs in the paid manager, you can set up your own, etc. That's really where the benefit comes, and it's all in one single pane of glass anyway. I like things that, if I don't have, less accounts I have to log into, the better.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions for today? All right. Awesome. As Wes said, you know, these are going to be recorded. So we are going to be able to send this out and potentially have them up on some of our websites here. So they're a little bit cleaner versions of them. But yeah, this is just the beginning. AI can be a game changer for your business, and I would absolutely love to help any of you take it further if you're needed. If you do need help with AI integration, digital marketing, SEO, web design, you know, let's connect. That's what I'm here for. You can reach me at my email. You can visit my website, Celtic Winter. If you have any questions, I offer free consultations for your business as well. And I'm always just actually down to chat with local business owners and hear about what's working, some of the challenges and successes that you guys are having in Mission Valley and beyond a little bit. So thank you guys so much for being part of this workshop series. Big shout out to Mission West. Thank you so much for hosting and being the the thought leader when it comes to change and small business promotion in our community. I know that I can speak for myself and probably many of the other people here that it's so good to have a company like Mission West that we can, you know, these guys are here trying to promote small business in the Valley and promote ownership and community. It's just one of the coolest things. I've always felt lucky to find out about them and now get a chance to work with them. So turn the time back over to Wes to close things out. And thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is all we have. We'll have more workshops coming up here in the spring, so hopefully we see you at those. If you know of anyone that'd like to see these recordings or want access to them, we will get them to you as soon as we have the edited versions of them.